the energy of your presence. If you're watching on Brookline Interactive TV, or if you're on Facebook or TOS Live, or here on the Zoom, we're really happy to be together with you. And I think as time has gone on and we're approaching the year mark of having to have a virtual sanctuary, I'm more in touch with the sanctity of the virtual sanctuary and feeling like, though I would much prefer to be with all of you in person, there's a way in which we really are connected energetically and spiritually when we come together from across many miles in some cases. And so no matter where you're coming from geographically, emotionally, spiritually, Jewishly, you're all a really important part of our experience tonight. And it's really a blessing to welcome in Shabbat with all of you. For those of you who are on the Zoom, I would welcome you to drop a word or sentence into the chat about how you're doing, how you're feeling as we enter into Shabbat, to help cultivate a little more sense of connection if you feel so moved to do that. And I also invite everybody to take your deep breaths and invite that spaciousness in. Spaciousness to receive. Our evening service, the first part of it is called Kabbalat Shabbat, means the receiving of Shabbat. And we're in the part of Torah in which we receive so much wisdom to guide us through the wilderness of our lives, and to guide us when we are sovereign in our lands, responsible for ourselves. We can think of that in the communal, historical sense. We can also think of that in the individual sense. And the most important part is that we need to be open to receive that wisdom. So let's actually make sure we have the physical spaciousness to allow our heart space, our lung space, some room to breathe and take some complete inhales and exhales this evening, so that we have the space to welcome in the peace of Shabbat, to welcome in the warmth, to welcome in the joy, to welcome in the sense of community that is so very important. So a couple deep breaths. Notice how you're feeling. Notice what you're bringing this evening. As you're entering into this island in time, this cathedral in time. I was sharing with a study group last night that I said Shabbat is like an island in time. That's what Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel called it. And he also called it a cathedral in time. And I said, it's an island and it doesn't have any bridges to it. And then I realized and corrected myself, it does have bridges to the time that come before and after. And those bridges are our rituals. There are rituals of candlelighting and making kiddush and motzi. And they're on the way out, the bridge off the island is Havdalah. And I never really quite thought of the bridges. But I invite you to think as we light candles this evening about marking time, marking the entrance into this time as kind of journeying together with our community along a bridge into this sacred time, this sacred pause. Please feel free to light along with me at home, or to imagine that you're in the room with the candles and bring that warmth. Draw it to you as we say our blessing, which is going to be on page 2. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Going to welcome Shabbat this evening. Instead of Shalom Aleichem, I had a request for Yedid Nefesh, which is another kind of song of welcome for Shabbat. And it also has to do with that love imagery. Yedid, the beloved, Nefesh of my soul. We welcome in the beloved of our soul this evening with Yedid Nefesh. And if you're not familiar with the melody, you will be soon. Just join in as you're comfortable, and maybe this will be familiar to you. And we'll sing a couple of verses. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Mishoch Avdecha Kemo Mishoch Avdecha El Ritzonecha Yarutz Avdecha Kemo Ayal Ishtachaveh Mul Hadarach Ki Yerav Lo Yedidutach Mino Fetzuf Bechol Tam Hadur Na'eh Sif Haolam Nafshi Cholat Avatach Ana Elna Refana La Beharot La Noam Zivach Az Titchazek V'titrapeh V'hayitza La Shivchat Olam Yadadai dai 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 Yadadai dai dai Yadadai dai 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 Yadadai dai Yadai Yadai dai. And also, due to a congregant request, we're going to sing Ma Yafeh Hayom, which means how beautiful is this day of Shabbat. We're so grateful for this gift, this holy pause, this island or cathedral in time. And that can be found on page 10 if you're with us in the book or the digital prayer book. Ma Yafeh Hayom Shabbat Shalom Ma Yafeh Hayom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Ma Yafeh Hayom Shabbat Shalom Ma Yafeh Hayom Shabbat Shalom. And now we will welcome in Shabbat even more warmly with Lecha Dodi, singing Come, My Beloved, Let's Greet the Bride, the beloved one that is Shabbat. Come, my friend, let's reunite with this beautiful, beautiful time that we can enter into together. We enter into it together as beloveds, as members of beloved community. We'll sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9 on pages 20 and 21, and I'm really grateful that Rabbi Jethro Berkman will be accompanying me tonight. And we'll rise on verse 9 if we are able to do that in our spaces at home to face the door as if a really beloved, very deeply respected presence is entering our midst, and that is Shabbat.
בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 5.
התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי. כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 9.
בואי לשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
I think Shabbat feels warmly welcomed. I saw smiles on your faces. I saw swaying. I hope there was singing. Of course, I can't hear you. All the more reason for you to sing out loud and proud if you don't think that you're a singer. So I have something special for us tonight. You know that, or those who've been to our services know that we think about awe and wonder when we sing a part of our song for Shabbat, Psalm 92, with our Ma Gadlu round, when the words mean, wow, this world is truly amazing. And we like to think about things that have amazed us in the past week. Sometimes things that are very small, or they seem small until you pay attention to them. But actually, something really big and awe-inspiring happened in our world, or actually beyond our world, if you want to get technical, this week, which is that the Perseverance rover landed on Mars. And, you know, there's something really kind of wholesome and wonderful about getting excited about space exploration, which is something that can so easily get covered over by so much that is happening, being in the midst of a pandemic and so much going on in our country and the horrible catastrophe going on across the South and especially in Texas with the weather. And there's something really beautiful about just reminding ourselves of the awe that is human beings exploring beyond our planet and truly breaking the bonds of Earth. So I came across a video. It's only 26 seconds long. And it is a video, and also one amazing thing about this is it's been, this rover takes the digital images in color, which I'm pretty sure has not been the case other times. And so we're going to listen to and watch a video for 26 seconds, and I invite you to really be quiet enough so that you can hear the sound. So just feel the awe of experiencing sound and image from another planet. It's amazing. And we're going to use that awe to launch us into the Ma Gadlu round. So here we go. We're going to share our screen in just a moment. So Ma Gadlu, indeed. Any other examples? I don't know if you can beat actual Mars exploration, but maybe you can, because like I said, our times of awe and wonder don't have to just be big. They can be very small. Larry?
I think what that shows us is the power of what humans are capable of doing. And we had the polar vortex being a moment of terrible awe for us this past week, and showing that climate change is a present issue and not a future issue. If we're capable of going to the moon, and that is wonderful, we're capable also of addressing issues here on Earth, and look forward to being part of that. And just on that, I was part of a group with several others representing our temple in a discussion with Dayenu. I would encourage everybody to go to dayenu.org. It's a Jewish organization addressing addressing climate change, and we look forward to being part of it. You'll be hearing more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. You want to take maybe one more example of awe or wonder from this week?
One of the scientists working on the rover went to my high school.
Ooh, wow, that's amazing, Diane.
Yeah. Bridgewater Raritan High School, New Jersey.
That's amazing. So whatever has sparked your sense of awe and wonder this week, I hope that you will hold it close as we chant. And as we're leading into Ma Gadlu, I want to quote President Biden, who said of this Perseverance rover landing, "Congratulations to NASA and everyone whose hard work made Perseverance's historic landing possible. Today proved once again that with the power of science and American ingenuity, nothing is beyond the realm of possibility." So may this sense of wonder give us also renewed hope in what humans are capable of, whether it's developing a vaccine or exploring other planets, or just simply being here for and with one another. It's pretty amazing what the human heart and mind can do. Hallelujah, 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 Magadu, Maasechaya. מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מה גדלו מעשיך היה. מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. If other examples of awe and wonder come to you, please feel free to drop them into the chat. And they may arise as we go through our service. So we're going to move to Chatzi Kaddish on page 26. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חילותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קורי ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה, ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן בעלמא, ויאמרו אמן.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. For those of you who join us on Zoom, we have a chance to say hello at the beginning of services and a chance to schmooze afterwards. But I've really grown fond of this opportunity in the middle of our service to check in and to reconnect, despite the chaos of trying to pray together on Zoom. So as we turn to Baruch Hu, the call to worship, I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and to take a moment to unmute yourself as Rabbi Berkman leads us in the Baruch Hu, to add your voice to the prayers this evening and to feel each other's presence just a little bit more.
Please rise. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Havorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. In honor of the blessing, noticing the wonders of the cycles of creation, of light and dark, I want to share a beautiful poem by a poet named Jan Richardson. Blessed are you who bear the light in unbearable times, who testify to its endurance amid the unendurable, who bear witness to its persistence when everything seems in shadow and grief. Blessed are you in whom the light lives, in whom the brightness blazes, your heart a chapel, an altar where in the deepest night can be seen the fire that shines forth in you, in unaccountable faith, in stubborn hope, in love that illumines every broken thing it finds. So with that reminder that there is light within us, we give thanks for the light that is beyond us, that comes and goes unbidden by us in the cycles of nature. We're on page 30.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו, לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים.
And on page 32, we give thanks for the great gift of Torah, the gift of guidance in how to live in this complicated world. We give thanks for the opportunity to engage with Torah, to rejoice in it.
ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Here too, we're going to invite you to unmute so that we can hear that sacred cacophony of our voices joined together in the Shema, in the book or digital book. It's on page 34.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
And now please mute while we'll continue with V'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בעם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Before we sing Mi Chamocha, we'd like to ask for anyone who'd like to share, either in the chat or we could take a couple people out loud, a moment when you felt a deep sense of freedom and of gratitude for that freedom. When have you felt free? Could be a small moment, it could be a very big moment. Would anyone like to share out loud?
Walking in the Arboretum on a path that no one walks on.
Thanks, that's beautiful. And Lisa says when she lived in Salzburg, she felt free. Last year at TOS, Esther. Others?
Whenever I go swimming in a lake or a river.
And Denise says when we celebrate Passover. And I would say something about walking in the really cold air and feeling that briskness and seeing on a snowy day, it's very beautiful here where most of us are, in the Boston area or in New England. And A lot of white snow and something about walking in the cold while seeing all that snow. Everything feels more limitless. So, all right, let's harvest up that sense of freedom and use it to recall our ancestors' joy in their own freedom. Mi Chamocha on page 40.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים זה אלי אהנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד יא אלי לה לה אלי יא לה 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 יא לה 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 Yai lai la lai lai, ya la lai lai lai. Yai lai la lai lai, ya la lai lai la la lai, ya lai lai, yai lai, ya la 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 lai lai lai. Yai lai la lai, ya la la lai, ya la la lai. Yai lai la lai, yai la la lai lai lai. Yai lai la lai lai, ya la lai, yai la la lai, ya lai lai, yai lai, ya lai 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 lai, yai lai.
Our lying down blessing is on page 42. Let us lie down in peace. Let us wake up to life again and spread over us the shelter of your peace.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Go to sleep tonight. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ufros ale. Oops, let me fix that key. Ufros aleinu sukat. Sukat shel amecha ufros aleinu sukat sukat shel amecha. Baruch atah Adonai Haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Blessed are you, God, who endows us with the capacity to bring peace to one another, to create shelters of peace for so many who need it in our world, to work to create actual shelter for those who are suffering from cold, from lack of food,
Blessed are you, God, who endows us with godliness. V'nomar, and let us say, Amen. So we're going to move into the Amidah now, the first three blessings together, and then some opportunity for silent prayer, followed by a prayer for peace. We'll begin on page 46. Please rise in body or in spirit. Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagipol v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה, אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Let's take some time for our own individual prayer. We'll join back together with a prayer for peace. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
I'm going to take this opportunity now, having prayed for peace and gone through the Amidah, to also pray for our country. I'm going to share a prayer by Rabbi Ayelet Cohen. We'll share that on the screen, and Rabbi Schaefer will lead us through that prayer. Feel free to join in at home, read along, or just to join in by listening.
Please join me in this prayer for our country. Our God and God of our ancestors, bless this country and all who dwell within it. Help us to experience the blessings of our lives and circumstances, to be vigilant, compassionate, and brave. Strengthen us when we are afraid. Help us to channel our anger so that it motivates us to action. Help us to feel our fear so that we do not become numb. Help us to be generous with others so that we raise each other up. Help us to be humble in our fear, knowing that as vulnerable as we feel, there are those at greater risk, and it is our holy work to stand with them. Help us to taste the sweetness of liberty, to not take for granted the freedoms won in generations past or in recent days, to heal and nourish our democracy, that it may be like a tree planted by the water, whose roots reach down to the stream. It need not fear drought when it comes. Its leaves are always green. Source of all life, guide our leaders with righteousness. Strengthen their hearts, but keep them from hardening, that they may use their influence and authority to speak truth and act for justice. May all who dwell in this country share in its bounty, enjoy its freedoms, and be protected by its laws. May this nation use its power and wealth to be a voice for justice, peace, and equality for all who dwell on earth. May we be strong and have courage, to be bold in our action and deep in our compassion, to discern when we must listen and when we must act, to uproot bigotry, intolerance, misogyny, racism, discrimination, and violence in all its forms, to celebrate the many faces of God reflected in the wondrous diversity of humanity, to welcome the stranger and the immigrant, and to honor the gifts of those who seek refuge and possibility here, as they have since before this nation was born. Let justice well up like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. This time we'll pray for those in need of healing. Of course, we call to mind all of those who are suffering as a result of the extreme weather. So many people who have suffered greatly in this past week. Think of those in Texas without clean water to drink, without water at all, some still without power, people who are cold, and people who have become ill as a result of that, as well as all those in need of healing who are suffering from COVID-19 and all who are caring for them. There are, at this point, 27.9 million cases of COVID in the United States. And from our community, please name in the chat, or if you're not accessing the chat, you can just say those for whom you're praying for healing aloud in your own space. From our community, we particularly are praying for Linda Hoffman, Anita Kulik, John Symington, Lumiano, Judy Goldberg, Eileen Schwartz, Esther Neshama, Tammy Griffin, Richard and Margit Hershey, Karen Shea, Doug and Mila Krynick. And we'll give you a moment to share names, whether you're in your space and want to say names aloud, or want to type them into our chat. Mitch Balin. Yes.
Also the people I have, which is Martha Joy Aft, Betty Morningstar, Ann Schwartz, who else forget? Myron Fromer.
Thank you, Eileen. And Miriam Bat Yosefa. Okay. All those that we hold in our hearts at this time. We pray for their healing of body and of spirit. We're on page 253. Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And I'm glad to be able to hand it over to Rabbi Schaefer to share some words of Torah with us this evening.
Thank you. It's good to be with everybody tonight. Tonight is Shabbat Zachor, or the Sabbath of Remembrance. It's a name that derives from an additional section of Torah that we read tomorrow morning from the book of Deuteronomy. And it describes Amalek's attack on the people of Israel as they traveled to Mount Sinai. We are told, Zachor, remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you went out of Egypt, how he happened upon you on the way and cut off all the stragglers at your rear, when you were faint and weary and he did not fear God. This injunction to remember an act of evil concludes with a paradoxical command. Timneh et zecher Amalek mitachat hashamayim. Wipe out the remembrance of Amalek from beneath the heavens. Lo tishkach, do not forget. It's traditional to read these verses on the Shabbat before Purim because the ancient rabbis understood that the villain of the book of Esther, Haman, was a descendant of Amalek. Just as we are supposed to erase the memory of Amalek, we try to erase the name of Haman by booing when the Megillah is chanted and his name is mentioned. In doing so, we remember, we blot out, and we do not forget. Deuteronomy's response to the presence of evil in the world is clear and authoritative. However, these instructions reveal their own weakness. Once we remember that it happened, and we seek to erase it completely and its legacy, what if we forget that it happened in the first place? This approach assumes that it is completely possible to erase any sign of evil, of an evil person or an oppressive party. In the ancient world, that may have been possible, but it is still an approach that many people advocate for today. But in our current digital world, we know that it is impossible to erase something completely. Everything lives on forever. Every email, tweet, photo, or blog post can live on in perpetuity once it is shared or reshared. I live in horror thinking that generations to come will know what my living room looked like during a pandemic. So if erasing is not completely possible, what is the alternative? I think the answer is tikkun, or repair. If we cannot erase something completely, what can we do to fix it, even in some small way? A few months ago, you may have seen a story that made the headlines of a German businessman, Thomas Edelman, who discovered that his grandfather had acquired a hardware store that eventually grew into a very prosperous retail chain in Germany, from a Jewish man in 1938, following the introduction of the anti-Semitic Nuremberg laws. After some genealogical research, this man discovered the name of the Jewish person, Benjamin Heidelberger, who was forced to sell the store to his grandfather, and the name of one of Heidelberger's granddaughters, who is 83 and currently living in Israel. He reached out to her in an effort to repair in some way the wrong that had been done to her by his family. He wrote, "I believe that if my family supported the injustice your grandparents experienced, it is our duty to take this into account and to take over responsibility, at least in getting in touch with you, to listen and learn. As I am part of the Edelman family, I want to take the first step and listen to you. I do understand that you might not see any benefit yourself personally in talking to me. But with me understanding and being able to teach my children and possibly other family members about the impact of particular historical decisions, this might help to make better decisions in their lives. Currently, the political climate in our country is poisoned. There is new anti-Semitism upcoming. I want to make sure that at least my family will never again be responsible for injustice experienced by others, but stand up to take part for the weak." They connected by phone and had a good conversation and have stayed in touch. By talking, they did not end anti-Semitism or bring about world peace, but they made a small tikkun or repair. In the theology of Tikkun Olam, they found a fallen spark of divinity and they raised it up. Thomas Edelman didn't have to reach out, and Hannah Einreich didn't have to respond. She could have assumed that every descendant of a Nazi businessman carried within him an irredeemable evil, but she did not. A few weeks ago, I teased that our tradition offered this same hope. In the Talmud and Tractate Gittin, we are told that some of Haman's descendants studied Torah in Bnei Brak. Now, Bnei Brak might ring a bell, not only because it is a town in the modern state of Israel, but because in the middle of the Magid section of the Passover Haggadah, we read, "Once Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon reclined for the Seder in Bnei Brak." In fact, there are some traditional Jewish sources that identify Rabbi Akiva, perhaps the most famous rabbi in the Talmud, as one of these descendants of Haman. Now, while it might be Rabbi Akiva or just some student who wanted to sit and learn Torah, it doesn't really matter to me. Either way, what an amazing journey from Amalek to Haman to Bnei Brak. This Parshat Zachor, I want you to remember not only the evil, but the possibility for redemption. It might not be completely possible to erase the bad things that have happened in this world, but there are endless opportunities to repair the wrongs and to lift up those fallen sparks. Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat Shalom from Ruby, who wanted to have her voice heard in that Devar Torah as well.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi Schaefer, I'm glad to know it's not just my dogs that really enjoy having their voices heard during the Devar Torah. It must just be a thing about Southern dogs wanting to weigh in on
I don't know how high I jumped there, but I've never had much of a vertical leap. That might be the most I've jumped in a long time.
When do we get to see Ruby?
After services, during the Oneg.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we'll move toward concluding our service with Aleinu and then Mourner's Kaddish. Aleinu is on page 282. Please rise in body or spirit.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn to those whom we've loved who are no longer with us here in this life, but who live on in us and whose love we may be able to feel around us. So at those who are reciting Kaddish, mourner's Kaddish for a loved one who has recently passed away, or those who are observing a yahrzeit, an anniversary of a death, those of you who are on the Zoom can feel free to share the names of those you're remembering. You can also put them in the chat, and we're going to share our yahrzeit list for the community as a whole on the screen as well. So I see that we're remembering tonight Elsbeth Weilheimer, Nancy Silverman. If there are others, would anyone like to share aloud? Thank you. Norma Weber.
And Stanley Kaiser.
And I want to share that, we have two different ways of remembering, or two different calendars by which we can remember our loved ones in the Jewish tradition. We have the Gregorian calendar, and then we have our lunar calendar, our Jewish calendar, our Hebrew calendar. And so some people observe the yahrzeit on the Hebrew date, which is the traditional manner in which to do so. But of course, as we live according to the Gregorian calendar, that date really holds a lot of meaning for us. And so I can share that personally, tomorrow, February 20th, is the date that my beloved father-in-law died 6 years ago, and my mother-in-law, Katie, is here with us tonight saying Kaddish for him. But last weekend was his Hebrew yahrzeit. And last weekend was the Gregorian yahrzeit for my stepfather, Bob, but this weekend is the Hebrew date. So in our own family, we have two very beloved fathers and grandfathers whose yahrzeits are very close together and whose Hebrew and English dates both fell last weekend and this weekend. So I know that some of us here and some of us watching are saying Kaddish for my father-in-law, Richard Berkman, and my beloved stepfather, Bob Lebson. Are there others? Link Boyden. Okay. So all those that we're holding in our hearts at this time, may their memories be a blessing for us. May we honor their memory through our words and our deeds. If it's your custom to rise, and if you are reciting Kaddish for a particular loved one, please rise. We're on page 294 for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uvizman kori v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'elam l'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal shmei d'kudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. And I neglected to mention a recent death in our community. It was the beloved mother of Maya Norton, Wendy Moscow Norton. And of course, we remember the 493,000 precious souls of our fellow citizens here in the United States who have died of COVID-19. May we honor their memories by being safe and keeping one another safe. We'll just transition us out of Mourner's Kaddish by singing Oseh Shalom again. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Berkman. And thank you to Rabbi Jethro Berkman for joining us tonight, providing such beautiful music. Tomorrow morning, we have services with Shir Chadash at 10:30. Rabbi Berkman and I will be leading together. Next Thursday is a busy day at 9 a.m. Rabbi Berkman is leading her weekly class, Torah for the Heart and Mind, on Zoom. And that night is Purim, and everybody is invited to our celebration, Purim After Dark, which is at 7 p.m. Thank you to everybody who signed up to participate in our Mishloach Mano exchange. We've closed the registration for that, but you still have time to make Purim gift bags for your friends and family. Just pull together some ready-made food and drinks, drop it off with friends, help spread some cheer and goodwill. Everybody is able to do that. And we are still raising money for our Purim Hunger Drive. So far, I'm very pleased to say we've raised $650. And we will continue to be collecting donations. That is part of the mitzvah of Matanot Le'Evyonim, of gifts to the poor. So if you're able to donate and support that, please continue to donate. And 7 p.m. on Zoom, we will join together. We're going to have a Purim improv show, a little trivia, and Shir Chadash is going to help us as we read the Megillah. Please come in costume. Please make yourself a drink and join us and laugh and have a good time. And as we think even further into the future, save the date. We are going to hold a community Seder for the second night of Passover. So please plan your calendars accordingly, and more details will be coming about that. And finally, we have a great adult ed class coming up on Thursday, March 4th, being led by Dr. Muriel Gillick on Jewish medical ethics. And I think it should be a great class, and I hope you will join us.
I think Ruby's
stick
gonna
around.
be there.
Ruby will be there. Please stick around after services to say hello and to schmooze.
Yes, and after services, as you know, I always like to meet people's dogs or other pets, inferior pets. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Sorry. But I would love to meet your dog or just say hello to you. People matter too. And so we will stick around. We'll stop the live stream and then invite anyone who wants to hop onto the Zoom, who hasn't been on the Zoom but watching elsewhere, can come join us for a few minutes after services. And I can't resist making this other announcement that's not at all related to TOS, but some of you may know that in addition to loving dogs and nature photography and music, I really love the Muppets. And tonight, the original Muppet Show is streaming, is starting to be available on the channel Disney Plus. I can't believe I'm announcing this in the middle of services, but you know, I'm just being real here. I'm very excited, and I will be watching and finally getting to show my kids the original. I'm not talking about the new and not so improved Muppet Show, the original. And I really believe Jim Henson was one of the great tzaddikim, the great righteous people of our times. And so much so that I wrote one of my college entrance essays about the genius of Jim Henson. So it's been part of my life for a long time. I'm really excited, and I'm guessing that many of you watching watched the original Muppet Show back in the day. And so if you're able to access it, have fun. So with that, I want to know now if I'm the only rabbi that included that in the Friday night announcements. I'm going to have to ask around. We're going to make Kiddush and Motzi and then conclude our service with Olam Chesed Yibaneh. So looks like we have some other guests from the family who are joining us. And if you would like to join in, and please mute yourselves at this time, but we're going to unmute to say hello after services. We're on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uv'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu v'acharta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, b'ahava uv'ratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lecha min haaretz. Amen.
We'll conclude with Olam Chesed Yibaneh. May we build a world of peace, and we'll share the words on the screen.
Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yadadai, dai, yadadai, dai. 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 I will build this world from love. Yadadai, yadadai, dai. You must build this world from love. Yadadai, yadadai, dai. And if we build this world from love, yadadai, yadadai, dai. Then God will build this world from love. Yadadai, yadadai, dai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, 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 yadadai, yadadai, dai.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So nice to be together. Anyone who would like to stay on the Zoom,